Money is one of the biggest things couples fight about, and it's usually not because you're not earning enough. It's usually because a lot of couples don't have a money system and they haven't had these deep conversations about money before. So in today's video, I'll be sharing exactly how my partner and I manage money together. I'll be sharing our money routine, the apps we use, and the one conversation that most couples don't have that ends up costing them thousands of dollars. And if you're new here, hi, I'm Queenie and I'm here to help you get smarter with your money. I have a license to give general financial advice, but please keep in mind that anything that we talk about in this video or on this channel is general advice only and not personal financial advice. You can read my full financial services guide in the description. Throughout this video, I'll also be showing you the budgeting app and expense tracker app that we use, which is called Billroo. This is actually the budgeting and expense tracker app that I have built with Pablo, who is my partner. And I genuinely love this app so much, I literally use it every single day. And the reason we started it was because we tried so many different budgeting apps and expense tracker apps, but nothing ended up working for us. So if you'd like to try Billroo for yourself, I've got a link in the description below to a 14-day free trial. So sit back and relax and grab a drink of your choice. Today I'm drinking hibiscus flower tea, and let's dive in. There was a really interesting study from Kansas State University that looked at over 4,500 couples and found that financial disagreements are the single strongest predictor of divorce, which is just crazy to me. It's not disagreements about kids, not disagreements about in-laws, not anything else but money. And it's not always about how much you earn, it's how you manage it together. And this one actually hits quite close to home for me because my parents actually divorced because of money. My dad is a Malaysian Chinese immigrant and he is extremely frugal. My dad's childhood was quite rocky and he grew up with a lot of money and then he ended up having no money at all, so he knew what it was like to live on both ends of the extremes. And he developed this extreme habit of basically being extremely frugal when it came to money and having a bit of a scarcity mindset around money. He wouldn't spend on anything that was non-essential. So we wouldn't go on holidays, we wouldn't go out to see movies, we wouldn't even go out to eat at restaurants. Not because we couldn't afford to do those things, but because my dad just didn't like spending money. And my mom, on the other hand, was on the other end of the spectrum. She would spend money on things that bring her comfort or joy. For example, turning on the heating during winter, or even just going shopping and buying things because it made her happy or because it was convenient. Growing up, I really understood both perspectives. I love my dad's side about saving money and not being wasteful, especially when it came to money and just buying things in general. But I also felt like we could spend a bit more on experiences and things that really made our life meaningful and joyful. And on the other hand, I also valued my mom's perspective on spending money. And I think it is important to spend money on things that genuinely bring you joy. But of course, not spending too much money that it puts you in a bad financial situation, or spending money on things that you don't actually enjoy and just ends up being wasteful. As a child, I didn't understand why my parents couldn't find a balance. But in a way, I've realized that this conflict around money that they had, it kind of shaped who I am as a person. As you probably can gather from this channel, I do love my dad's mindset of saving money and investing and financial freedom, but at the same time, I also value my mom's mindset of spending money on things that genuinely light you up inside and things that bring you joy. And I try to give both perspectives in my channel. So here's the thing that a lot of couples get wrong when it comes to money. Usually what happens is one person ends up setting up the spreadsheet and then presents it to the other person and then wonders why there's tension. And I totally get it. If you're watching this video, you're probably the person that cares about finance, maybe even more than your partner does, because you're watching this video right now and your partner may not be. So here's the thing to be mindful of. If only one person creates the budget, the other person might start to get resentful because they feel like they need to get permission to spend their own money. I'm not gonna lie, this actually happened to Pablo and I quite recently. Pablo wanted to take on a new activity, which is paddle, and I was initially a bit reluctant at first, but then he pointed out something really important. At the time, we actually had a combined clothes budget and a combined beauty budget, but really I was spending most of the budget on myself for clothes and beauty, and Pablo was actually spending very little. And he pointed out that it was only really fair for him to be able to spend some money on a hobby that he really enjoys. And that's when it really clicked for me, and I was like, okay, of course, he can spend money on this hobby, even if it might be a bit expensive, because that's fair for both of us, right? And as a couple, I've realized over the years that you might want to spend money on slightly different things, and that's totally okay. It's normal that you don't want to spend the exact same amount on every single category. And it's also really important that each person feels like they are able to spend a bit more money on things that they genuinely enjoy, and for both people to feel like it's fair. And it doesn't always mean splitting everything exactly 50-50. It's about finding a system that feels fair for both of you. You're literally deciding how you want to allocate create your money for the future, to set yourselves up for the future, and to just create joyful experiences in the future as well. This money system can also change over time, and that's totally okay too. When Pablo and I first moved in together, we actually ended up splitting everything 50-50 because it felt fair, because that's what you would do with a roommate. But I was still a student, only working part-time at a department store, whereas Pablo had a full-time job. So I was making half of what he was making, and by the end of the week, I barely had anything left. Pablo could still afford to save money, whereas I was really struggling to keep up. At first, I didn't want to say anything because I felt a bit awkward about it, but Pablo was really sweet about it, and we ended up doing a proportional split instead. But over time, this has evolved, and at one point I was earning more than Pablo, and we decided to change the split again. And now that we're married and we have a baby, we've just fully combined our finances. So we don't split any of our expenses anymore, but we do like to spend a bit of money on ourselves in things that we genuinely enjoy. For Pablo, that's his hobbies like paddle, and for me, it's being able to spend on beauty and clothes and going out. Here are some conversations to have with your partner first. Set aside 30 minutes, grab a coffee or a tea, and sit down with your partner. And here are some interesting questions that you can go through together. The first one is, what are we saving for? Are you saving for a wedding, a deposit on a property, or something else? I think it's really exciting to work towards a goal together. Our first goal that we had together was to be able to buy our first property together, and our goal was to have a $100,000 deposit. Having this goal made it so much more motivating because we would basically check in every month to see how we were going with this goal. And seeing that progress and us getting closer and closer to that goal was so motivating. The next question is, what are some things that you would like to spend money on separately? It's important that each of you get a personal amount of money each month that you get to spend guilt-free on whatever you like. So that way Pablo doesn't feel guilty about going to paddle, and I don't feel guilty about spending money on skincare. He doesn't question these expenses that I make, and I don't question the expenses that he makes, because it's all reasonable and we've agreed on it before. This really helps us remove the day-to-day arguments and also the guilt that comes along with not being able to spend money on things that you really enjoy. And the last question is, how do you want to split things? Do you want to do a proportional split? This is ideal for couples that have different levels of income. So it's not exactly an equal system, but it could be a more equitable situation. Another option is the 50-50 split, which works well, especially if you do have people earning a similar amount of money. Or some people just prefer to split everything 50-50. And another option is just having fully combined finances. So all the money goes into a joint account, and from that account, things are paid. But at the same time, each person also gets some personal money that they're able to spend on whatever they like. Pablo and I have basically gone through each of these different models on this list at different points in our relationship, and that's totally normal. The best system is the one that feels fair to both of you right now. And it's a good idea to keep on revisiting this as your situation changes. So here are some different budgeting apps and tools that you can use to manage money with your partner. The first one is Billroo, and yes, it is my app, and yes, I am biased, but I genuinely love using Billroo so much. It's actually one of my most used apps. As you can see here for this week, Billroo is actually ranked above my Messages app and above my Mail app, which is just crazy. I actually really love using Billroo. It really helps me feel control of my finances, and before we had this tool, I knew I kind of had an idea of where my money was going, but then I realized I actually didn't. So let me show you how it works. So this is what our Billroo dashboard looks like. You can see all of your income, expenses, and you can even create your own custom categories in here. So as you can see, this month we spent quite a bit of money on travel, obviously childcare as well. We had a bit of tax that came out of our account, spent some money on clothes and the wedding, housekeeping, etc. We get a lot of feedback from our users, and that's how we choose which features we want to prioritize building next with our team. And we've just had some crazy stories that have come through over the past couple of years. One person actually found out that they were paying for comprehensive car insurance for one of their cars twice for about 3 years, and they had no idea that they were paying twice for the same comprehensive car insurance policy. Another person who's a business owner realized that they were spending $40,000 just on eating out in a year, and it really made them more mindful about how they were spending their money, because just seeing how much they spent on eating out was a bit of a wake-up call for them. And I'm not gonna lie, it is a little bit confronting sometimes actually logging in and seeing exactly how much money you've spent on certain things, but I also feel like it's motivating, and the more that you check in and do this, the more you can start picking up on things that you may have missed missed before. And if you want to try Billroo for yourself, I've got a link in the description below to a 14-day free trial. Something that I'm also really proud of about Billroo is our team is 100% based in Australia, except for our designer who is based in New Zealand. So I'm really happy that we have an all-local team, and our team's really efficient and just does such an amazing job of building this product, so I'm very proud of it. Another option which is really handy, especially if you are splitting your finances, is an app called Splitwise. This is not sponsored, but I love using Splitwise, especially when I'm going overseas and traveling with friends. This is what it looks like. As you can see, I've got all of my trips that I've taken with friends over the past couple of years. And for example, let me go into this one. When you pay for an expense, you basically put it in, you put in how much it was. You can choose to split equally, or you could choose to split just with another person. Say for example, if you paid for lunch for you and a friend, and then at the end of the trip, it basically calculates who owes what, instead of having to do the math at the end of the trip, which is really quite time consuming. And I feel like this could work really well, especially if you are splitting your finances as well. I actually have some friends that do completely separate finances, and they always use Splitwise, which is really helpful for them. So here's exactly how Pablo and I manage our money. The first step is we actually sit down together and we set aside around half an hour to actually go through our finances. We open up Billroo and we have a look at exactly how much money came in, how much money went out, and exactly where our money went that month. Billroo has automatic bank connections to our banking apps, but Amex isn't part of open banking yet because they're technically a non-bank lender, and open banking currently only has banks available. So what I do instead is I actually go to Amex and I download a CSV, and then I upload it into Billroo. And then Billroo automatically categorizes my transactions, but sometimes I do like to just double check and go through the list and make sure everything's being allocated the way that I want it to be allocated. And as I'm doing this process, a few questions do pop up. Like I'm always asking Pablo, what was this Amazon purchase again? Was that for Gia, our baby? Was it a gift, or what exactly was it? But exciting news, around next year, Amex will be part of open banking, so you will be able to securely connect your Amex account to Billroo without sharing your bank ID or your password, which is also one of the reasons why we wanted to do open banking instead of web scraping, which is when you have to put in your bank ID and your password, which we felt like was a bit risky. So here's what it looks like. As you can see, for this month, we earned quite a bit of money because we had our wedding this month and we received quite a bit of gifts from people. And another thing that I love about Billroo is you're able to put in manual transactions. So we like putting in manual transactions for cash gifts and things like that. And now I can see exactly where our money went. So we had our mortgage, we spent quite a bit of money on travel, childcare, tax, we also had a bit of a tax bill to pay, and obviously other things, but this isn't a full month yet, so I guess we'll need to check in later and see how we did for this month. But the good news is we have invested quite well this month, which is really exciting and really nice to see. I also love how we set aside personal money for ourselves to spend. For example, love spending money on beauty things, and Pablo can also spend money on paddle, which makes him happy. And it feels nice to be able to spend our money on things that genuinely make us happy and things that we find enjoyable. I'm not gonna lie though, sometimes we do have some months where we really spend way too much money. For example, in November and December, we spent a lot of money and we really wanted to get back on track. So in January, we wanted to do a no spend month where we wouldn't spend any money on eating out, clothes, or entertainment, and we actually did pretty well. This is actually a screen recording for January because, we also needed to pay off the wedding, so that was the reason why we did the no spend challenge. And I think we did pretty well. We ended up not spending any money on clothes, and we were still able to spend money on, things that made us really happy. It looks like we did spend a bit of money on eating out, but it's a lot less than what we usually spend. So that's really good overall. We ended up spending a lot less than usual this month, and it enabled us to completely pay off our wedding, which is really exciting. So if you ever do have one of those months where the budget was completely blown and you feel like you've completely lost track with it, I highly recommend maybe even trying to do a no spend challenge or a low spend challenge for the next month, just to try and get yourself back on track. And you'll honestly be surprised with how many activities and things that you can actually do for free, and how you can really get creative with your spending and spend way less money than you thought you needed to spend anyway. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way through. Your secret word is team. So write us a comment below with the word team in it, just so we know you watched this video all the way through. Thanks so much, bye!